In this example, the functions f and g are represented numerically, and we're going to evaluate various compositions of these two functions. For the first one, we see that we have g composed with f evaluated at 2. So we'll rewrite that then. G composed with f of 2 as g of f of 2. And so inside this function g, we're going to place f of 2. Now as we evaluate this, we'll work inside to outside. So we're looking to find f of 2, and to do that, we'll go up to our table where we see the function f. We'll go to the input 2, and we'll see that that output is 0. So f of 2 is 0. And what that means then is that this g of f of 2 becomes g of 0. Now, the last step we just have the expression g of 0. We have the function g represented in table 1. So we'll go up to where x is 0, and we'll look, and we'll see then that for g of 0, we see 6. So g of 0 is 6. And as this is expressed, we have g composed with f, evaluated at 2, and then we've simplified step by step, and we see that that final output is 6. The next example, we have f composed with g, and that's evaluated at 2. And one of the key aspects of composite functions is that we can't compose them in any order and get the same result. G composed with f will not necessarily be the same as f composed with g. So in this example, we have f composed with g, and that's evaluated at 2. So we'll have f of, and then inside that function f, we'll have g of 2. And just like in the last example, we'll use that table to find the value of g of 2. So this becomes f of, and we'll find g of 2. G of 2 is going to be -1, so this will simplify then to f of -1. And now as our last step, all we need to do is find the value of f at -1. And as we do that, we see -1 for the x value, and that output for f is 4. So f composed with g evaluated at 2 is then 4. In these next two examples, we're going to compose the function g with itself, and then we'll compose the function f with itself. So for this first one, we have g composed with g of -1. And as we look at this mathematical expression, it looks a little bit like the word GOG is written, but it's important to note that this symbol in between g and g is an operation, and it's the operation of function composition for functions. So it's a function operation, it's a small circle, it's open, and we know that when we see g composed with g of -1, that becomes then g of -1. And we'll use our table to find g of -1. So at -1, there's our x value. Output for g is -2. So this will simplify then to g of -2. And the last step here is then to evaluate g at -2. So we go again to our table, and we see -2, and we see that value. That output value for g is 0. So g composed with g evaluated at -1 is then 0. For our last example, we are going to take f composed with f and evaluate it at -2. And we'll take f of -2 then. So inside that first function f, we have f of -2. And reading that off of the table, we can see that f, so we go to where x is -2, we evaluate the function f, and we see that that is equal to 5. So what we're really looking at then is that this is equivalent to f of 5. And as we go to read on that table, we'll see that f is not defined for an x value of 5. So 5 is not in the domain of f, which means then that f composed with f of -2 is simply undefined. So we'll write that as a sentence. F composed with f of -2 is undefined.